Hey guys, it's Counting in my review for Emma. And what Emma's essentially about is basically we center on the character of Emma Wood, how she is this sort of socialite, rich young woman that a lot of people are very much, they very much admire. And that's mainly because she herself is a matchmaker. She's not really interested in love. She loves to pair up family and friends and is responsible for a bunch of new relationships. And so she plans on doing the same with her friend Harriet Smith. She wants her to be married to this guy, Mr. Elton, but things really start to go off the rails fairly quickly when Mr. Elton starts taking interest in Emma, and basically from there, a bunch of hilarity and situations ensue, and that's really all I'm going to say. So, Emma, overall, I was very much looking forward to this film. This just looked absolutely delightful and fun, and I was really hoping that this could be a very, very entertaining film for sure. And so, going into it, though, I didn't really know a lot about the source material. I knew that there were other adaptations, so I decided before this I would watch the Gwyneth Paltrow version, which I gotta say, I wasn't really that big of a fan of. I just found it to be very sort of dated and just overly cheesy and things like that, and it just didn't really work all that much for me. So I was really going into this one hoping that this one could deliver, hoping that this one could have actually done this story justice, because I know it's a highly, respected story. It's very much a classic in that way, and it absolutely gave me what I want. This is a very, very fun film for sure. That's probably one of the funniest of the entire year so far, and that's for many reasons, and we're just getting into it right now, starting off with the cast. And overall, I think that's the thing that really does help this film. Everyone in this cast is just absolutely on their A game. Everyone is doing such a incredible job. But absolutely, this movie is nothing without the fantastic performance from Anya Taylor-Joy as, of course, the character of Emma, who, the second that I heard she was going to be in it, that was enough a reason for me to get excited, and that's partially the reason why I wasn't a fan of the original, because I just didn't think Gwyneth Paltrow was that well casted, and considering the kind of character that Emma is, someone who is very cunning, she's someone who definitely has good intentions, but she can also be a bit selfish at points and overly critical of people, and I think Anya Taylor-Joy just plays that so well. She perfectly gets you to understand that Emma is not someone that is trying to be malicious. Emma's not someone that is trying to be sleazy in that way. She just kind of finds herself in these situations. She's trying to make everything go her way. She's trying to make sure that everything works out the way it should, and that's why things end up crumbling for her, and she's just so damn likable in the role because of that. You find this character to be very funny, but you also very much do relate to her because, we've all been in situations like this before where we want things to go our way and they don't, and Joy just plays that up very well here, especially when it comes to the transformation that Emma undergoes throughout this movie. I thought she handled that extremely well, and I was very impressed by her acting here. Look, I do think that Joy is one of the best actresses, out there right now, of her generation at least. I think she's such a phenomenal actress, and this is definitely another performance that very much does prove that she absolutely kills it here. But another absolute scene stealer is Bill Nighy as Emma's father, who I just found absolutely hysterical. This is the kind of character that they frequently will use just for comedic purposes, but that's really all they needed to do with him, because this is a guy who, whatever situation he's in, he just doesn't seem to really care all that much, and that's what's so funny about it. Whenever some sort of situation will be going on, everyone will be either like freaking out or they'll be overjoyed. We'll just pan to Bill Nighy in just utter confusion and utter, just completely uninterested in what's going on, and it's just really funny to watch. He does a really great job in this movie. I thought that he was very well casted here. The rest of the cast also is really great. Josh O'Connor, Mia Goth, Callum Turner, Tanya Reynolds, Connor Swindells, Miranda Hart. All of these actors do a really good job for sure. I have to highlight Johnny Flynn though, because I thought he did such a great job as the character he was playing. I thought that his role was very strong as Mr. Knightley, someone who in the original film just didn't really leave much of an impression on me, but here you really do see how critical he is of Emma, but also just how great these two are together in that way. What he ends up, the way that he goes about things, I just thought was really great here. Everyone here was very well casted. I could tell this cast was having a really fun time in these roles, and considering just the ridiculous nature of it all, that's something you absolutely need with this film, and this cast absolutely, I think, elevated this for me. However, I really want to get into the directing and the writing with this film because that's what I think puts it above the other adaptation of Emma. So I'm not going to just constantly compare it to that original, but there are some things I think this one does infinitely better. One of them being is that this film, though definitely it has some really nice, heartwarming moments for sure, but they recognize that this film is really, really silly, and there's a lot of things here that aren't meant to be taken too seriously, and so I think Autumn de Wilde's directing is really well done, but again, she does lean into the heart and sentimentality of it pretty well, too, so I thought there was a really nice balance there, The one that I watched with Gwyneth Paltrow, I just thought was very, just sort of kitschy and just didn't really hold up in that way. It was very overly cheesy. This film finds a way to not make it so. This film finds a way to not make things too cheesy in that way, and I thought they did a really good job with it. But the writing as well is what really impressed me here, because this is just a really great screenplay. The premise is, yes, fairly simple, but what this film understands is that these characters, for the most part, are just completely ridiculous, and a lot of them could come off as very one-note for sure, but what I think they do a really great job with is giving one gag to a character and then sticking with it. I already talked about, Emma's father, for example, how he's just, like, very sardonic and very just, cold throughout a lot of this movie. He'll have the most blank expressions on his face. He'll always be weirded out by what's going on. He'll always be very disinterested, and stuff like that just really works very well. I thought they played with that very well. And I really like where they went with that character, or the character of Mr. Elton, for example, someone who, he's very awkward in conversations. He has a very hard time in, trying to woo Emma, not just because Emma's not interested in him, but he's just a very awkward character in that way, and I thought they did a good job with that. Or the character of Miss Bates, who is someone that is just very talkative, and she'll say too much and things like that. So, again, little things like that, this film just really understands, and they really do play around with that humor very well, but they also really understand the character of Emma. Emma is not someone that is, this selfish, sort of vindictive character. She comes across that way, but she really is genuine in what she's trying to do. She's really trying to make an effort to make things go her way, and that's something that I had a very difficult time connecting to in the original film. Not just because I think Gwyneth Paltrow was just kind of miscasted there. I didn't think she was a very good casting choice. But the character of Emma was just kind of confusing for me. I couldn't really tell what they were going for. Here, it made far more sense to me on what they were really trying to do with her. Emma is someone that is very smart, but things just keep, not going her way. And you see how that does start to have a significant impact on things. And I just thought that the writing here from Eleanor Catton in that way was very strong. Like I said, the movie is also absolutely hysterical. There's so many just great moments throughout this, which, yes, they do evoke the favorite at points, but it knows that it's a lot wackier, it's a lot more out there, it rarely does take itself seriously, and I was surprised by just how much was making me laugh here, how much I really was enjoying what they were doing. But this film has absolutely some of the funniest moments of the entire year, just little things they'll do, like the way characters react to something, or the way they'll say something. They just find a way to make it so fucking funny. I don't really know how to describe it, honestly, but they just found a way to do it, and I thought that the writing was very strong in that way for sure. And again, the romance aspect that's in there is also pretty strong. I think that it's much stronger than it is in the other one that I saw. I thought here they did a much better job at, just making us care about this story, making us care for Emma as a character, and I just thought that the writing was very strong in that regard. And then the cinematography here is absolutely gorgeous. There's so many many just beautiful looking scenes, so many great sets, the costumes and things like that. They really do go all out in terms of the time period, and I think that they did a really good job in terms of cinematography. The score is actually very unique. It's kind of like this very loud operatic type score, and I really dug it a lot. It was very different from what I see in most films, and I thought it worked very well for what they were trying to do in this movie, and really gave it an identity of its own, and I really did enjoy it quite a bit, I have to say. And then in terms of the editing, this is my one gripe with the film. I do think this film is too long, and that's not just, I felt that with the other one I saw as well. I do still think this film is a little bit too long. I don't understand why it needs to be 2 hours. I felt like there was a point where it did start to drag a bit for me, especially when it comes to the third act. There is a bit of a lull there. There's a certain scene that happens, and after that, I really did start to feel the length. I started to feel the runtime. For the most of the film, it was pretty breezy. It was going by pretty quickly, but I do think that there was definitely it definitely started to feel a little bit too long for me. I think they could have done a better job with that overall, and just do a better job at tying some, at just, trimming it down. I'd say at least by 20 minutes. I don't understand why this movie needs to be 2 hours long, really. My only other flaws with this movie, I would say, is that there's just some characters that I just thought were a little bit underwritten. Her friendship with Harriet Smith, it's well done in this movie, but it does feel a little glossed over at points. I feel like they could have maybe dived into it just a little bit more. I thought they still did a really good job with what they had, but there was a point where I felt like they could have focused on it a bit more here. But overall, I really enjoyed Emma quite a bit. I think it's a very delightful and fun film that knows not to take itself too seriously. It has a very simple story for sure, but it really does a lot with it. It gets a lot out of it from the cast, who provides just some really great moments throughout the film. It can be very sweet at points with what it's trying to do for the character of Emma, and just overall, I think it does a really good job of paying tribute to this classic story, and I definitely had a very good time with it. So I'm definitely going to give Emma overall a B. But over, guys, to my review of Emma. Let me know what you guys saw this movie. I'll love your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.